large part of what I love about my job is the potential freedom. And I say potential freedom because sometimes I've forgotten that there's a world outside of the Vegas poker rooms. When I finally decide to pry myself away from the usual rooms and change up the scenery, I can choose a location such as this recent trip to the beach and find myself in an entirely different city that very same day. Before jumping over to California, there was a poker session, of course. We're completely card dead, no good hands, no good spots in a very wild game. And sadly, just sitting there watching it all happen until came the 7-9. Middle position has raised to $10 and 2 players have called. These are 3 of the loosest players at the table. And with the barrage of garbage being dealt our way over the last few hours, I'm practically excited to see 2 cards that are suited and connected and will happily pay to see a flop from the button. The flop comes down with what at first glance looks like a miss, but it's not necessarily. Our hand is now a double gut shot with a backdoor flush possibility. A 6 will be the nut straight, and a 10 would bring the second nut straight, while any spade on the turn improves us to a flush draw as well. The original raiser checks. Late middle position bets 20, the cutoff calls, and I consider raising. Yet ultimately, I feel nearly certain there is no fold equity at this stage, so I peel one off to see what develops on the next street. The original raiser folds. The turn is also a miss, but does improve our outs when the deuce of spades comes down. Unexpectedly, both players check. Now, it's time to make a play to win this pot without having to connect with our outs. I bet 65.
Call.
The river, a 7 of hearts. Both players again check. A pair of 7s is highly unlikely to win this pot, so betting is probably the only chance we have to win. These 2 in particular have been calling down very light throughout the session. I'm not so sure I can get this through the 2 of them. But this nagging voice in the back of my mind kept repeating, "So you're saying there's a chance?" I then choose the only bet size that I think may work as I announce all in and push the remaining chips forward. The first player tanks for somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 minutes. Several times he nearly folded, several times he nearly called. Ultimately, he did neither. Finally, he slowly, painfully pushed his cards forward. Then the second guy sits there for another full minute before saying, "Oh shit, did he finally fold? Yeah, hell no, I'm out." And this one gets through. Gotta love it when your nerve response is fully tested on a bluff attempt. After the last hand, there's been a lot of discussion around the table as to what I actually held. Some believe that I did have a monster, while others are skeptical, to say the least. It's now less than a round later, and we're in the big blind. One of the players from the previous hand has raised to 15, and 2 people have called. For various reasons, I lean toward folding the smallest of pairs out of position against several players in a raised pot, but the implied odds, the earning potential in this specific game are huge, so we're definitely going set mining with these deuces. The flop is a pretty sight, comes down 8, 3, deuce, rainbow. I check, original raiser, bets, putting in 40. Action folds around and I call. The turn pairs the 3, improving us to a full house. I check again and he bets 85. I see no point in raising here. The plan is to bet out the river for value. The river is a queen and I elect to bet out 2/3 of the pot. He suddenly freezes for a few seconds and announces all in. Now normally this would be horrible news to hear, as our full house could be trapped in a reverse implied odds situation facing at least a bigger full house. However, we chose to get involved pre-flop hoping for a pot like this, so now we're going to hold on tight, make the call, and eagerly await what 2 cards he's about to turn over. Queen of clubs, ace of hearts. Reverse implied odds are not against us this time around, and the chips are shoveled our way.